And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited. And as always, we're working on your financial freedom. And I'm filling in today for Al Gordon on Tell Al Tuesday. Yes, I filled in last week as well. If you tuned in, you remember that. And last week, we talked with a couple, a power couple, I would say, that does exclusively passive investing. Good story. Go to lifestylesunlimited.com. Go to the radio tab that's archived there. You can hear what they told us about passive investing. And if they are investing passively, we'll get to what that means here in a moment, I think. Well, who might they be investing with? Who is the, let's say, active investor, what we call a lead investor at Lifestyles Unlimited? You might also hear the term syndicator or general partner. Well, today I have a lead investor, not necessarily the one that these guys have been investing with, but I do have a lead investor on with me to talk to you about his story. And we'll hear just what it is that a lead does. So I'm joined today by Christopher, fellow here in Texas. We'll hear about where he is. But without further ado, Christopher, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is a good back-to-back interview, given that we did have the passives on last week. A couple out of California, by the way. Very, very aggressive, very active in their investing. But let's hear first and foremost about you and your family. Give us a little bit of background, where you come from before becoming a successful lead investor in real estate. Tell us what you were doing before, and maybe how you found Lifestyles Unlimited, and what encouraged you to join. A lot of stuff there, but let's hit it all out the gate.
Sure, no problem. I was originally from Houston, Texas. Lived out in the Katy area. I had an oil and gas job downtown. I had to commute the drive that I did every single day. At the time when I first initially joined Lifestyles, I had a young son. And so, that kind of prompted me to start looking at other avenues and some income streams, potentially make a change and a switch. Just the grind of that drive every single day from Katy to downtown Houston just got very wearing, and I missed out on a lot of family time, especially whenever he was a baby. And so,
Houston got some rough traffic down there, don't you? I'm in Dallas. It's pretty bad here. Right. Houston is worse, isn't it?
It was pretty rough, not gonna lie, especially that long of a commute every single day.
Okay, so what'd you do?
So, worked in the oil and gas industry and heard about Lifestyles Unlimited from a family friend of ours. And so I went into one of the events, liked what I heard, ultimately went to the 2-day class that Del Walmsley was teaching there in Houston, and just kind of believed everything that he said, did some research on my own, further joined, and basically just went all in on the process with a goal in mind of ultimately being able to retire from corporate America and do this full time. And fast forwarding to where we are today, I have done so. I officially retired in August of 2020 from corporate America, focusing on the lead investments full time. And now I currently live in New Braunfels, Texas, right outside of San Antonio. We moved a little over a year ago, last year in May, and absolutely love it here. It's closer to my current properties that I own, and just absolutely love Central Texas.
Very good. And we'll hear about those properties during the course of the show. First and foremost, congratulations on retirement. I know that's been almost a couple of years now. I always love to hear that. When did you tell us, when did you join Lifestyles Unlimited?
Sorry, I joined in March of 2016. And when I initially joined, I started passively investing, and also I bought 4 single family properties. I just kind of wanted to get the full gamut on, all pieces of the real estate investing, so I could have some education and some experience in it before I jumped in to being an official lead investor, and bought my first multifamily property in 2018.
Okay, so joined early 2016. I want the audience to hear this. Joined early 2016, retired mid 2020, so right at about 4 years. And we tell the audience, we tell the listener, you can retire in 5 years or less. And this is proof of concept right here. We're hearing that. And speaking of proof of concept, is that why you took on the single families then, just to kind of dabble a little bit? Was that the very first thing you did, or did you do the passive? How did you approach your early investing track?
Well, whenever I joined in March, I was just very excited, ready to get the ball rolling and get involved in as many things as I could. So it was actually simultaneously. I did both passive investing and single family houses at the same time. Basically kicked off all right there in the year of 2016. I did 3 passive investments and 4 single-family properties.
Okay. So oil and gas industry, we have a lot of members, I'm sure you know this, that come from oil and gas. It's such a volatile industry. People get stressed out by that. Add on top of that your daily commute from Katy into downtown Houston. That's a killer right there. So you took action, found Lifestyles Unlimited, and made a decision to give this thing a go. You did the single family. That's great. I'm a single family investor myself. I've been doing the passive as well, but you went one step farther to become a lead. And we've got a little bit of time left in this segment. Why did you choose to become a lead? What was the motivation there?
Well, I was very motivated to financially initially, and then also to get out of corporate America. And I knew that was a path. I like being in control and being the one behind the scenes, setting everything up and having the performance side of it on my shoulders. So I knew it was always the route I wanted to go. I just started single family and passively just for education and to learn all sides of the business. And passively investing initially helped a lot as well, because I got to see how other members were setting up their deals, how things were structured, how they operated with the monthly communications and everything before I was able to officially step in and take all of that to try to better myself as a lead investor as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. I think it's good to have that passive experience because I, as a passive investor, I have a certain expectation around communications. Now, we're speaking today with Christopher. He is a lead investor, a syndicator, the guy that puts together that big project around an apartment investment and invites passive investors like myself in to participate. Now, Christopher, we connected at one point at one of the recent Expo events, so we had the conversation. We got to know each other a little bit, and we're helping acquaint the audience with you now as well. We heard already, come from oil and gas background, a lot of our members do, getting out of that volatility. You did some single family investing. You invested yourself as a passive. Now you've done a number of lead investments. Prior to this, prior to becoming a member at Lifestyles Unlimited, had you had any real estate investing experience?
I did. I would say it was very minor. Back in 2012, I got a couple of buddies of mine from high school, and we all went in together, the 3 of us, and bought a single family house and actually ended up doing very well on it. Got it for a really good price. We rehabbed it ourselves and did well, made a good return. So I realized that I did like real estate. I enjoyed the process throughout, but also after I was able to join Lifestyles, I realized that we did a lot of things wrong and incorrect. And I got very much more education from Lifestyles on the do's and don'ts of the right things to do. And I wish I would have had that education before I bought that house.
It's a good point. And I get questions from time to time. Hey, I'm thinking about partnering with my buddy on a single family house. And I'm thinking, boy, the returns are great for me as a solo investor in each and every one of my houses. But when you start to distribute that, across multiple people, it's a little bit thinner. It doesn't work as well. That's when you really got to start looking at the apartments. Maybe go the IRO, the independent rental owner route, buy your own small multifamily. Have you done IRO at all with small apartments?
All of my properties have been syndication.
How many syndications have you led so far?
I just closed on my 5th.
Number 5. Hey, congrats. Joined in 2016. That's 6 years ago. Roughly 1 apartment investment per year. I'm sure it's been a little more compressed now. You didn't come to Lifestyles Unlimited and then buy an apartment community. What did it take to get you up and running as a lead investor? You mentioned education. What sort of education track did you have to go down?
Right. Yeah. So I definitely didn't want to just jump in right away. I wanted to make sure I was educated and knew what I was doing before I started. That's why I mentioned I did the single family, the passive investing. Also went through the process of becoming LEED certified through Lifestyles Unlimited through their courses. And then even a step further, my wife and I both went and got IROP certified, Independent Rental Owner Professional, through the Houston Apartment Association, and took that course and passed. And it was just a good extra little feather in the cap of additional education, for the apartment world and how everything works.
Yeah, further education. I mean, we do a lot at Lifestyles. You mentioned the certified lead process. That's part of it. Even before that, there's the core apartment investing education. I've done that as a passive. And then there's the certified passive investor education. I'm now a certified passive. So when I go and talk with Christopher and he sees that designation, he knows I'm a smart investor, somebody that he can bring along into one of his investments. Now, your wife, this is the first time we're mentioning her. Is she alongside you in managing the 5 apartment communities?
She is not actively. She's actually an online health and fitness coach, and that's actually recent as well. She was oil and gas industry throughout this entire process.
Okay.
Just away last year due to all of our success so far in multifamily.
Hey, congrats. Well, that sounds a little dangerous. Oil and gas is pretty volatile, and both of you were in that industry. I'm glad to hear you got out. And I'm actually looking at a picture that came across with the show notes, you and your wife, and it looks like you have a couple of kids as well. You mentioned a son, but I see a second one here. Is that right?
That's the other recent development. So we have a 5-year-old son, and then we moved to New Braunfels, and we just welcomed our second son, and he is now 5 months old.
Hey, congrats. Hey, I have a 5-year-old as well. Next time I see you, we're going to exchange some notes because we're homeschooling and it's getting rough. But back to apartment investing, you're a lead investor. Tell us, what does a lead do? What's a day in the life of Christopher? What does that look like?
Well, it's definitely changed from the old days of the oil and gas industry, but I do enjoy what I do now. Like I said, it is all on my shoulders, and it just depends on what part of the process I'm in. If I'm out searching for a deal, it's all out, just contacting, discussing with brokers, underwriting deals, going to tours, visiting those properties. If there's no deal in action and it's just the managing and operating of all deals, it's weekly calls with my teams, always checking the reporting, going on site to the properties, checking, making sure everything's running and operating as it should be.
Okay. So that's your 5 deals in, 5 apartment investments in that you're leading. And obviously it's like when I bought my first single family house, you probably experienced this as well. It was a little kind of training wheels, right? It was a little bit of a rocky ride here and there as I figured things out with the help, of course, of my mentors at Lifestyles Unlimited. And with each progressive purchase, things got better. I understood better my own selection criteria, define those more, fine tune those. And I think you've probably experienced that as well. But let's think back. When was that first lead investment that you took down?
I closed on the first lead investment deal in September of 2018.
2018. And so at that time, before you closed, you were what we call an aspiring lead. And I've invested personally as a passive with a number of aspiring leads doing their first investment. Those guys, and you're probably the same way, are always chomping at the bit, ready to go. I like that enthusiasm. But how did it feel on your side to be that aspiring lead, to do that first deal?
It was very nerve-wracking, very scary. I remember when I went and toured for the first time and I was walking around the property, I was kind of even questioning myself, like, is this too big for me? Am I taking too big of a jump? But, now that I've gotten through it and I've done 4 deals after, as you had mentioned, I couldn't agree more. You do get better and better at the process. You become more knowledgeable on how everything flows and the ways to improve that as well. And but after I was able to go ahead and close that one, it was an all-out learning process throughout the entire part. But I really enjoyed that education. First started there.
And did you have, as an aspiring or first-time syndicator, first-time lead, did you have any difficulty finding passive investors? Because you're not putting all your money into this as a lead investor, right? You've got other folks bringing money to the table. How was that process of getting those passives on board?
That's great. The first one was a little bit tougher, but ultimately, I was still able to raise the funds. There was a lot of members that liked the deal, liked me as a lead investor, and believed in the property. And so I was able to raise all of the funds, my full equity raise that I needed to get the deal closed. Very good.
And I'm looking at your list of deals done here. Which was the first one?
The first one was the one in Victoria, Texas.
Oh, in Victoria. Okay. Yeah, 58 units, so not a small community by any means. Would you describe this as a cash flowing property out the door? Was this a heavy lift, a value add type play, or what was the approach on this one?
I characterize this one as a hybrid. It was middle of the road between just a yield and a value add opportunity. It was a nice operating property as is, slightly older, very well maintained by the previous ownership that owned it before I did. And so it just gave a good opportunity to come in, take over an already good operating asset, but then improve it with a lot of rehab, exterior, interior renovations, also adding new amenities on site, new signs, those type things, just to really make it pop and improve upon the product that was already there.
Okay, very good. I think we're going to be heading into a break here in just a moment. When we come back, I want to hear a little bit more about a couple of these investments that have gone full cycle. And as a passive, I want to know, is there a trick to making sure I get on board with a lead investor? Something I can do? I want to hear it from you, so stick around.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, not because that's the way it's set up, but because of the knowledge.
When put into action, knowledge is power. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we empower you to live the lifestyle of your dreams through passive real estate income. For over 30 years, our successful members have shared their knowledge through case studies, classes, and mentoring. Tap into that knowledge. Attend a free workshop online. Register now at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Andy Webb, and we're speaking today with Christopher. He is a lead investor. He's a member at Lifestyles Unlimited, joined in early 2016, retired himself from corporate America in just about 4 years. His wife has retired as well. They got out of that volatile gas and oil and gas industry. Good move. And they're enjoying the financial freedom. One question I want to come back to that I hadn't asked, Christopher. You were from Houston. You were working in Houston at the time. It looks like you're generally buying around San Antonio, San Marcos. You just mentioned Victoria, so not in Houston. What's the drive? What's the target? Why are you targeting that particular area? What's the pull for you?
Yeah, great question. And so I'm a big numbers guy, and my background within the oil and gas industry was in inventory management. So a lot of data, statistics, analytics, those types of things. So I spent a lot of time looking at different markets and running a lot of numbers on market analysis. And from what I saw, I really liked the opportunity zone in Central Texas. And so that's where I turned my focus initially after the purchase of my first two properties, was to really focus on the Central Texas area.
Okay, very good. Hey, you've done your research. I like to hear that from a lead investor. You've really dug into a particular area. Again, I like to hear that from a lead investor. One other question maybe that goes alongside that, we talk at Lifestyles Unlimited about that investment box, whether that's a single family house or a multifamily community. Now, we just heard that your first investment in Victoria was a hybrid, which for the listener, on the one end of the spectrum, you've got a cash flow type deal, a yield play we call it. On the other end, you got one that you really have to do a lot of work for to reposition. It may not cash flow, it's a value add. Christopher picked his first one up. It was right in the middle. What are you doing nowadays? What type of box do you like to target?
So actually, it's still very similar. I like a property that is well maintained by the previous ownership, has good occupancy, but also I have visions of the rehab and the model that I want to turn the property into. And so it's taking over a good operating property, but then just adding onto it with like I said before, the amenities and any other exterior rehab, interior renovations that we can do to help drive rents and increase income.
Okay, and increase value, right? You increase that net operating income. That has because we're leveraged, we're not buying these all cash. There's a tremendous magnifying power in just simple changes, charging for some covered parking or charging back part of the pest control or the garbage or the utilities can have a tremendous impact on value, which, although that does not cash flow necessarily to my pocket, when we do the refi or do the sale, we capture a tremendous amount of capital gains. So you see both really with hybrid cash flow and gains. Tell us maybe about one of your apartment communities, your favorite deal, something like that, one that maybe has gone full cycle. What do returns typically look like? What are we seeing out in Central Texas there?
Yeah, so in the Central Texas area, I only have one that's gone full cycle, and it just happened recently, actually. It's the one that I owned in San Marcos, Texas, and that one was 104 units. I bought it in July of 2019 and just actually sold. We closed in May of 2022. And ended up being a very nice return to all investors in a short amount of time, about 2.5-3 years time frame there, and going to be about 75-80% return to investors.
Very good. Very good. And this would have been a hybrid deal. So you're probably were you doing quarterly distributions throughout or maybe in the latter half?
That's correct. Yeah, it stopped initially. I always usually say no distributions for a year as I go in, and I usually have a pretty large rehab model that I do, and I always try to start paying out earlier if the opportunity is available to do so.
Yeah. So for the listener, I just use the term investment box. And even if you're a passive investor, you need to know what your investment box or your investment criteria are. And if it's I need cash flow from day one, then you need to find those yield plays in the apartment space, or maybe do the single family because those cash flow very quickly. If you can wait a little bit and allow the lead to reposition, start that rehab, maybe start covering the rehab cost out of cash flow initially and so on. And then get that big capital gain, 75, 80% in just a handful of years. Very, very good numbers. And congratulations on the sale. San Marcos, that's right up the road from you now in New Braunfels. I think you need to pick up another one there, don't you?
I know I should. It's only a 15-minute drive now. It used to be 2.5 hours from Houston for me. Yeah, nothing now.
Yeah. Hey, and congrats on the move. Nothing against Houston, but boy, I'm in Dallas and we drive down to Corpus all the time. And obviously that's right in the middle. Beautiful, beautiful area. Hopefully you guys still have water in the Guadalupe down there. It's a little bit dry up here where I'm sitting. Now I want to come back to the passive side of things, because here I've got on the phone with me, or on the show with me, a lead investor. And these are the people that I want to find. These are the people I, as a passive investor, want to network with, get to know, and figure out if this is somebody that I want to invest with. And Del, when he interviews people, especially passives, that's what he asks. Are you investing with the lead, or are you investing based on the property, the jockey, or the horse? Well, I want to know about the jockey here. And I want to know from the jockey's perspective, what do you want to see, Christopher, when I come talking to you as a passive? First question, big question I get from a lot of people. Do I need $1 million to invest as a passive?
No, you do not need $1 million to start off.
What's a normal investment? I mean, you've done 5 investments now. What's a common amount for someone to contribute?
Yeah, they range. Most of my deals, the minimum investment has been $50,000, and so I usually get 50, 75, 100, up to 150, and then a few larger than that. But all of my deals, though, I have left some room available for a few $25,000 investors as well. So, from my perspective, on my deals that I've had open, you could have gotten into a deal for $25,000.
Yeah, very good. It's not a lot, maybe a lot for some people. And if it is, there's a way to get to that point where you can participate. And commonly that's single family. What Christopher did early on is a great way to build the capital to then shift into passive investing, or even lead investing. And Christopher, I'm in investments where the minimum was actually 25. And you know how it goes. You do the investment, the investment closes, and we get that Schedule A that shows all of the other investors, and it shows their contributions. We see what everybody has invested. I've seen as low as 10,000 in a couple of the ones that I'm in. So it's great that you and the other lead investors hold that door open for, let's just say, some of the newer investors that are building capital new to this space. So that's the money side, right? That's the money side of passive investing. Is there a trick or something that I as a passive can do to help ensure I get on your lead list and get into that next investment opportunity aside from the cash?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I do get that a lot right now. And I think just, for sure reaching out to me. I'm on Podium within Lifestyles for all investors. Also just emailing to me, and then, just a little bit about yourself. If we're ever at an event, coming up and talking to me, and for sure that relationship side definitely helps. And whenever you have a meeting or some kind of interaction, that helps me know you a little better.
Should I be emailing you every day?
No, I don't need it every day, because once you're on my list, I'll have you on the list. Anytime a new deal comes up, I will be sending it out.
Yeah, you mentioned Podium. Just for the listener, Podium is a software. It's basically an investment management platform. I'm in there as well. Christopher, you and I are connected there. So when you get that next investment position ready to market, I'll be able to see that there, see the mails that are generated there. It allows me, by the way, as a passive investor, to get a full overview of all of my investments that I have with the sundry Lifestyles leads that I am invested with. So it's a very, very convenient way, quite frankly. And it's very secure as well. It helps us manage through that process. And that was a tongue-in-cheek question, of course. It's daily communication is going to be over the top. You do need to manage that. You want to stay front of mind. We spoke last week to passive investors, a married couple from Northern California. In their first year, they're invested in 17 passive investments. That's all they do. They put their money in, sit back, and wait for the communication from the lead investors and the distributions and everything else that lead investor manages as the project manager. And today, we've got the lead investor on with us. We've got Christopher. I'm not saying those two are connected, Christopher, necessarily. You may or may not have those guys in your current investments. I don't know, but we have so many passive investors and so many lead investors at Lifestyles Unlimited. It's just a tremendous ecosystem. I like to use that term to describe it. And I'm curious, Christopher, what have been some of the big benefits for you as a lead investor from the Lifestyles Unlimited ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. Education, number one, that was huge. The mentorship as well. And then just as you mentioned, the ecosystem, the networking, everybody with the same goals in mind of focused on multifamily and investing, and bringing everybody together to be able to, look at, acquire, and purchase these properties.
And speaking of mentors, we really haven't talked about that a whole lot. We've talked about the education, and you started out doing the single family side. And for the listener that says, hey, I'm not ready to do multifamily, we do have the single family side as well. That's how I got started a decade ago, and I've leaned very heavily on the single family mentors and the education over the years. You did that for a little bit, did the passive thing, now you're a lead. How have the mentors played into your investing? How do you use them? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, well, it's been extremely helpful, and especially when you're doing your first deal. I mean, there's so many things that come up through the entire process that you lean on for questions and to ask and to get answers and feedback on. So that is just beyond beneficial when you're first going through it. Then when you become, now fast forward to my fifth deal now, I kind of more educated. I know more what I'm doing, but still, it is so nice to have that mentor to help review, look over my numbers, verify. They still provide, feedback. They've done so much more than I have as far as, deal number size. They've seen it for more years than I have. So they always have other things thinking outside the box that maybe I didn't think of that I can look at in my underwriting and try to, find it, tune it a little bit more than I would just on my own.
Yeah, so the mentors, for the listener's sake, is they are apartment investors as well. Now, I'm coming to you from Dallas-Fort Worth. We do have a brick and mortar office up here in Las Colinas, and we've got a handful of apartment mentors as well as single family up here in Houston. Same story. We've got the mentors down there. In Central Texas, we've got the mentors there. I'm curious, you were based out of Houston, but you were buying more in the Central Texas market. Were you leveraging more the San Antonio mentors for your investments there?
So it switched. So initially out of Houston, I had the mentors out of Houston helping me with my purchase in Victoria. And then as I migrated over to the Central Texas area, I did switch over to the mentors in the Central Texas office. And then now that I've moved out here, obviously still in touch with the mentors in Central Texas as well.
Yeah, and we leverage them all. And if you're investing outside of Texas, so we're talking about Texas here, we've got investors that are operating, for example, in Phoenix, in Atlanta, Georgia, around that area, Tennessee, Indiana, and I mean, the list goes on. We also have national mentors, and these are mentors that are experienced in this sort of cross-border or cross, I don't know what to call it, cross-state line, I suppose, investing and management. But it's not just the mentors that have helped you that have been at your side. We also have our operations consultants. I know Teresa there in the Central Texas. I've talked with her a lot of times, and she's a powerhouse. What are the operations consultants? What do they do for you?
I would say powerhouse is an absolutely fantastic term. She has been incredibly vital to my success in this journey. And, without her, I don't know if some of these deals would have even gotten through. So I can't, confirm and back what you said enough about Teresa and the operations consultants, at all of Lifestyle.
How do they help you? What is it that they're doing?
Just, whenever you're doing a deal and just trying to get through it initially, and then also after takeover, anytime issues come up, there's new things that come up daily that is my first time to go through them. So leaning on her and her experience of best way, is just completely vital for success.
They're ongoing, right? It's, as the name suggests, operations. I think they help you during the due diligence and feasibility when you're considering the project and lease audits, all that stuff. And these are people that have decades of experience in the apartment industry on, possibly working, for one of the big investors. They eventually come over to us, one of the big institutions, I should say, come over to Lifestyles Unlimited, and we leverage that experience. We have great operations consultants in all the offices. Now you go in, you take down this community, and you do what you can to reposition it. We heard a little bit about a couple of those. How do you, as somebody that's looking at these apartment communities, they're in a city, in a town, in an area. How do your actions as a lead investor help that community, not just the apartments, but the broader area?
Yeah. So, and I learned this from the first property, and I didn't really know it until after the first one. I was able to take it down of how much I really, truly enjoy the part of after you close and take over, and then putting my vision back into the property with the rehab dollars of improving the property, the exterior, the signage, making it a better place to live. I'm also very big on community events. I like to do at least monthly community events, and we have stuff, pizza parties. We throw events where we do raffles and give out gift cards. I've done events where I've given out TVs and those type of things, just improving the morale and truly making that property a real community. And that is something that I have absolutely enjoyed through this entire process. And just by doing that one property, that just improves the area and the location even more.
Yeah, you guys out there are doing wonderful work. The couple of projects I'm in, some of them are in really small towns, and the lead investors have become very well known. I'm in a small deal in East Texas, and this guy is known to the Chamber of Commerce, the city officials. I mean, they love what he's doing because he's turning around what was, to some degree, a little bit of a garbage and making it shine, making it look better, putting in the play parks as available for kids, or the dog parks, all that good stuff. So you guys are, hey, I appreciate it. I think you guys are doing great work out there, helping out the families and whatnot. And speaking of families, we heard you have a couple of young kids, 5-year-old boy now and a new boy as well. How has becoming a real estate investor, how has that changed your family life?
Oh, that is an absolutely fantastic question. And I cannot preach this enough that it is absolutely entirely different the second time around now. The first one, I was getting up at 5 a.m., we were dropping our son off at daycare. I was downtown Houston by 6:30 a.m. every single morning, not getting home till 4:35. He was going down for bed. I'd only get about an hour and a half with him. So just, not a whole lot of time. And now, controlling my own schedule, I am very busy, have a lot going on, but I also work from home. And now that my wife is working from home as well, the experience and interaction the second time around, and being here and having that family time and being able to control my own time is just, I cannot tell you how much of a difference it is and how much we appreciate every single day that we have in this new setup that we're in.
Man, I love it. As a fellow dad and father to a 5-year-old, we're not lead investors, but we self-manage a good sized portfolio of single family houses that has allowed me to retire as well. And I can't say enough about the time that I'm able to spend with that little guy now while he's young. It is such a valuable thing, Let's talk about goals. We've got a couple minutes left. Short-term and longer-term goals. What's on the horizon for Christopher and his wife and his family?
Yeah, so originally the short-term goal was to get out of corporate America, focus on this full-time for both my wife and I. We have now achieved that, and so I just closed on my largest property in May, and the short-term goal is to get that property up to hitting the numbers and projections that I said and want. And then, from there, I'd like to keep growing. I want to keep buying more properties and keep repeating the same model of success that I've done in the past.
Yeah, you're a pretty young guy, I think. You've got a very long time horizon. Is there a time where you slow down and then return to the passive side, maybe start grazing a little bit, kind of hang out and give up the reins?
That may happen, but I still consider myself fairly young right now, and I have a lot of motivation and fire under me right now, and some goals of things that I want to hit and achieve. So, and I really enjoy this. I truly enjoy what I do now, and so there will be a point in time down the road where that does happen, and I start becoming more passive. I don't see it happening anytime soon, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I just have a lot of fire and motivation.
I hear it, and it is fun. What we do is a lot of fun. And I think a good recommendation, are you going to be up in Las Colinas for the Wealth and Passive Income Expo next year?
I will be. Yes, I will be.
So for the listener, especially whether you're a Lifestyles member or not, I'm going to tell you just quickly, the Wealth and Passive Income Expo, it's going to be February 15th to the 18th of 2023 in Irving, Texas, Las Colinas, where in my neck of the woods. So I'll be there, and Christopher will be there. That's a great opportunity for you to come and meet him and all our other lead investors. We get so many there in one place. To those passive investors, you heard what Christopher said, how to get in with them, network, right? Stay on their radar, don't overdo it, of course, but get educated.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an